Okay, so last week, Tuesday, we did this mishnah in Avos with the goal of figuring out practical kavana type stuff. Okay, so we'll do a quick review. And basically I have like a couple of like isolated ideas on each of the things in our mishnah, and we'll like see where that takes us. Okay, so we had Rabbi Shimon Omer. Rabbi Shimon says, Havi Zahir b'Krias Shema. So we noted that there are two versions of this mishnah in Pirkei Avos. One says just Krias Shema, the other one says Krias Shema and tefilah. Last time we were doing Rabbeinu Yonah, who says it's just Krias Shema. So we're going to go with that for now. So be careful in Krias Shema. Ukshazim is pala, and when you daven, al tas tefilah keva, don't make your tefilah keva, whatever that means, fixed. Ella rachmim v'tachanunim lifnei HaMakom baruch, but rather mercy and supplication before God, before the true existence, however you want to translate HaMakom. That'll be Thursday share, I hope. Shnemer, as it says, kichanun v'racham hu erech ha'payim v'rav chesed v'nicham al hara'a. It says in Yoel, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger and abundant in kindness, and he changes his mind, or he relents regarding harm. The alti rasha b'fnei asmacha. And we lost Michael. And don't be a Russia before yourself. Oh, we got Yosef. Okay. Yeah, just morphed there. Okay. Hey, Yosef. Okay, so don't be wicked before yourself. All right. So our questions were, let's just read them here. Number one, on all the three clauses, why do we need to be told this? Right. So what's the we've got a whole variety of crew passing through. Why do we need to be told this? Basically, what's the havmin or what's the chiddush in each one? First of all, why would we be inclined not to be careful with Krias Shema? Or why would we make davening keva? Or why would we be a rasha before ourselves? And we added to the question, we said that according to many, then Pirkei Avos is for like people who want to be a chassid, they're already on a high level. So you don't need to tell like Tanaim to be careful with Krias Shema, you know, and or not to be wicked before yourself, or maybe you do need to tell them. So either way, like, what's the chiddush? And then given the audience, what's the chiddush? Okay, two, practically speaking, what does it mean to be careful with Krias Shema? Careful in what way? Careful about what? Three, practically speaking, what does it mean? What is it saying to change about your tefilah? Like, what was keva? What is rachamim v'tachanunim? How do you do it? Four, what does he mean by keva? Okay, yeah, okay, we'll include that here. Okay, four, what does it mean? Why is it use the name of hamakom? Why not say HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I'm actually gonna not delete the question. Because I want to give a shiur on Thursday about hamakom specifically. I want to like just deal with all that then. I don't want to touch any of that tonight. Five, what function does the pasuk serve? Great, it's talking about God, but it's quoting it as a raya that you should make your tefilah merciful and supplicatory. So why is it quoting it about God? Six, what does it mean to not be wicked before yourself? And what if you are a rasha? Should you just like pretend you're a tzaddik? And seven, what, if anything, is the relationship between the three clauses? Okay, especially the last one, which seems to fit in the least, because at least the first is about like shacharisi type things, right? Or Mariv type things. Yeah, last one seems to be just, you know, thrown in there. Okay, so last time we did Rabbeinu Yonah. I want to reread Rabbeinu Yonah, pick up with the question we left off on, and then analyze it fully. And then I have some other stuff here. So Rabbeinu, I didn't open it. Avos 2:13. Okay. Rabbeinu Yonah, and I can't remember who was here or who wasn't here. So if you need me to repeat anything, right now we're in review mode, but like if you need me to repeat or elaborate on anything, or if you have additional questions, then let me know. Okay, so Rabbeinu Yonah says, actually, we're going to go in order. We're going to start off with a new point, okay? Because I think I rushed last time to address something about tefilah because we wanted to make sure to get to tefilah stuff. So let's just take it slow now. Okay, Rabbeinu Yonah, that's Rabbeinu Bachya. Rabbeinu Yonah says, Havi Zahir b'Krias Shema. He's here al Krias Shema yoser mi tefilah. The reason why he is warning about Krias Shema more than tefilah, mipnei shezman hatefilah gadol, because the time of tefilah is large. Okay, shehu ad, which is until Arba Shaus, which is until 4 hours in the day. The Zman Krias Shema katzer and mechuvan, but the Zman Krias Shema is narrow and exact. Im haneitz or ad haneitz, depending on how you hold it. Kavasikin, like the venerable people. V'zehu lashon havi zahir kitzar k'zehirus gedola. So that's what he means. You should be careful because you need to be very, very like cautious to not get the time wrong. And I showed you the Ramam last time. Ramam holds that like Zman Shacharis starts at haneitz and then extends for 4 hours. And the best way to do it is at haneitz, but if you do it later on, you're not called an avarian. You're not considered like you're in a transgressor, you know. But when it comes to Krias Shema, he says, mitzvah min muvchar is to do tefilah at haneitz, and if you transgress, then you could be yotze afterwards. So he holds it like seriously. Okay, so let's just talk about that for a second here. Okay, what's the idea like in Pirkei Avos? I understand halakhically, but like, why do you need to be told to daven exactly at haneitz in a Pirkei Avos framework? Like, I mean, you should be careful to do all mitzvahs properly, you know? Yeah, Yosef?
Yeah, it's like they're kind of commenting on like a quantitative thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the difference is not really like qualitative. It's more just like one has more time, one has less time. So now you're making a whole new comment about it. Like, it doesn't really make sense.
Oh, you're adding to the question.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I'm adding.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, right. Yeah, correct. Yeah. And again, we have quantity is a familiar thing in halakha. Like, you know, eat the right amount of matzah. Like, you know, be careful how much you eat because you might be chayiv in a bracha corona, right? So like, you know, yeah, it's just a quantitative thing, which is standard in halakha. And we're assuming that we're talking to people who are already, you know, doing stuff like this anyway. So anyone have any ideas?
I guess maybe we should think like, what's the idea of davening by haneitz? Like, what is that idea?
Of saying Krias Shema by haneitz, you mean?
Yeah,
right. Exactly. Okay, good. So that's also where I started is what's the idea of saying Krias Shema by haneitz? So let's look at the Gemara. I know this is a whole sugya, but again, we're being selective here. And by selective, I mean I'm gonna only show you sources that I thought like had something to do with the question. Okay, so the Gemara actually begins with okay. All right. You can begin the Gemara in many places. What we're going to do is just going to start here. Tani Nami Haki, there's a brisa that supports this. Because the Gemara is having a whole question of what exactly should you do when. So the brisa though says Vatikin Hayu Gomrin Osa Iman Chama. By the way, Vasikin are people who Rashi, I believe, defines as people who value mitzvos and do them at the earliest possible time. And I think that's part of the whole question here, is the earliest time of Krias Shema is before haneitz. You know, it's when you could see your friend who you recognize at Amos. So what did the Vasikin do in this case is they would finish it with haneitz hachama, with sunrise, kadeshi yismach geula tefilah, so that they can make their geula, which is the bracha after Krias Shema, juxtaposed to tefilah, the nimtza mispala bayom, and consequently they'll be davening by day, meaning that they'll be, he says here, Vasikin is anashim anavim umachabuvin hamitzvos, humble people who favor mitzvos or who treat mitzvos with endearment. So, and then you'll be davening in the day. Okay, but here's the part that we need. Amar Rabbi Yizera, my kra'ah, what pasuk do they use to support this idea that you should say Krias Shema at haneitz? Yira'ucha im shemesh v'lifnei yareach dor dorim. Okay, so it's in Tehillim Ayin Beis Amud Aleph. There's no Amudim in Tehillim. Pasuk Hey. Okay, I actually did not look at the Mefarshim on this pasuk. I just want to make sure I'm translating it correctly though. Yerucha im shemesh v'lifnei yareach dor dorim. They translate it as they shall fear thee, meaning God, while the sun endureth. Okay, it's really they shall fear you with the sun. V'lifnei yareach dor dorim. And okay. Not a good English translation. Let's look at Matthias David. Get some pshat here. Yerucha. Okay, that's pshat in context. Okay, whatever. It's a drasha. And before the moon for generations. Okay, so that's the pasuk. They should fear you with the sun and before the moon for generations. So what does that mean? So Rashi explains here. My kra de mitzvah lispal imane tachama. Okay, so what is the pasuk that you should daven with haneitz? Now, it sounds like he's only talking about davening, but he's going to talk about Krias Shema in a second. Dichsiv, as it says, they should fear you with the sun. Masai misyarim mimcha, when do they fear you? Kishemora acha mekablim alehim, when, in other words, when do they accept their fear upon you, upon themselves? That's Kabbalah's Om Malchut Shemayim for Krias Shema. When do they do that? So he says, Tahainu Malchut Shemayim Shemekablim alehim b'Kriyas Shema, which is the yoke of the kingship of heaven, which they do in Krias Shema. Im shemesh, with the sun. Kolomar, meaning to say, Kishe hashemesh yote, when the sun emerges, Hainu im haneitz chama, is with sunrise. And then Lifnei Areach is a different point that's about mincha. After mincha mitzvah im demedume chama. That mincha, they say, should be when the sun is becoming red, which means when the sun is setting. We don't need that for our purposes here. Okay, so Rashi's point, just to reiterate here, Gemara says the source for saying Krias Shema at haneitz is an idea of Yiras Hashem with the Shemesh. Rashi says that that's when they accept Olmach Shemaim on themselves with Krias Shema. So our question is, what is that idea? What's the idea of fearing God with the sunrise and then davka through a Krias Shema? And then how do we use that to explain, whatever answer we give there, we need to explain why the Mishnah in Avos is telling us to be careful with it. Meaning, halakhically you should be careful with it, but presumably it's going to connect to this idea somehow. So what do you say?
Maybe this is a little bit like vague, but maybe it's some idea of like imbuing your entire day with the idea of Yiras Hashem. Like if you do this thing at the very outset of the day, so it's like, you're living your day with that quality in some way.
Okay, so I think there are two approaches you can take here, okay? And I'm just going to map them out. I'm not going to spell out the one that Isaiah is not saying. Two approaches to take is that what's significant about sunrise is that it qualifies the entire day, okay? The other approach you could take is that there's something special about sunrise, that it's hitting that moment, that is significant, not because it characterizes the day. So Isaiah is saying that at the outset of the day, you need to be like kovei your day as a day of Yiras Hashem. So you do it like at the exact moment that the sun emerges. Okay, I hear that idea. That's good. Anyone have different ideas? Or different questions for the questions here? I mean, just to suggest further questions here, that you could be thinking about is, I think it might be necessary to think about what do we mean by Yiras Hashem, and then what do we mean by Kabbalas Olmach Shemayim? Because what we're asking here is you do your Kabbalas Olmach Shemayim at a time that's conducive to Yiras Hashem, which is the sunrise. So Isaiah gave a theory about the sunrise, and I gave another start of a theory, but then Kabbalas Olmach Shemayim, like maybe we need to get that more, and then, fear of God. How does that fit in?
Well, I guess this is a different kind of approach, and it's kind of similar to the way you said that I wasn't saying it.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess the sun sort of, when it rises, it's sort of coerced to rise, and it goes along sort of the path that Hashem set out for it to rise in. And so if you sort of are saying Krias Shema at that exact time, well, the sun is like, beginning its rise, and it's going along its sort of fourth path, you should know that like sort of Hashem, like recognizing that Hashem is sort of forcing you to do certain things also in your makabel, that sort of forcedness.
Okay, that's good. Oh man, I'm in conflict right now. I'll put it to a vote. I could give you a crash course in Tehillim 19. But then that would spoil it in terms of us learning it in depth. Because Tehillim 19 really like, I'll show you. Hold on a second. I won't say no, I've already said too much. Okay, all right, well, I won't show it to you because I'll spoil it. But let's just say if you want to look for a raya for what Isaiah is saying, then look at this pasuk in Tehillim 19. Let me just show you the pasuk so you can focus on it. This is in Hashemayim Misaprim Kavod Kel. So it starts off the heavens declare the glory of God, and his handiwork is proclaimed by the firmament. Yom layom yabia omer. Each day says to the other, v'layla l'layla yechavedas, and each night expresses knowledge. Ein omer ve'ein devarim, but there's no speaker and there's no speech. B'lid nishma kolam, their voice is not heard. B'chol ha'aretz yata kavam, their line emerges over all the earth. Uviksei sevel milehem, and their words go out to the end of the civilized earth. La shemesh sam ohaben. He placed the sun as a tent in a tent. Okay, V'hu, and the sun kechasan yotzei mechupaso, is like a chasan emerging from his canopy. Yasis kagibor larutz orach, rejoicing like a mighty man to run the course. So that's describing the sun. From the end of the heaven is its emergence, and its circuit goes all the way around. And there's no hiding from its heat. So that's describing the sun as this like loyal servant, like rushing out to declare the glory of God. So that's just a raya for Isaiah, but I don't want to go into the ideas. Yeah, Yosef?
I'm a little bit confused. Are you supposed to say Krias Shema at haneitz, or supposed to say Krias Shema in order at a time so that at a time so you can say a mida at a
We're conveniently skirting that issue. Rambam says that you have to say Krias Shema a little bit before haneitz.
So that'll need to
Daven Shemona Esrei at the time. This Rabbeinu Yonah on on Avos says that you should say Krias Shema with haneitz, and then the Gemara itself, and then the Rashi we read is hard to tell because it sounds like it's both of them. So because above he says, the Gemara says Nim Sam Mispala Bayom. Sounds like you're davening tefilah with haneitz. But then the pasuk he brings, Rashi sounds like he's talking about Krias Shema. So So I don't know. We're gonna let's just take it in the Rabbeinu Yonah way that we're saying Krias Shema with the sunrise.
Okay, fine. All right.
Yeah. Don't paskin based on that. Yeah. Okay, so that's Isaiah's. Isaiah, you were saying that as a second idea, right? Not as a clarification of your first idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Right. Okay. I want to add to that, unless anyone else has anything to say about along those lines. Okay, so let's review Yiras Hashem. I know we've read this a billion times, but we could read it 1,000,001. Okay, never hurts to review Yiras Hashem. Okay, especially because that's all Moshe says that's all Hashem asks from you is just to fear God. Okay, so Rambam in Sefer Madeh Yesodei Torah 2:1. 2:1 and 2. The revered and awesome God, this revered and awesome God, it's a mitzvah to love him and to be in awe of him. As it says, you should love Hashem your God. You shall fear Hashem your God. Okay, so we're going to do both. So what's the way of loving him and fearing him? At a time when a person gains insight into God's wondrous and great creations. Okay, that's like the heavens. And sees from them his wisdom, which is without comparison, without end. He immediately loves, praises, glorifies, and is filled with a great desire to know the great name. As David says, my soul thirsts for God, for the living God. So that's Avos Hashem. When a person thinks about these things, now machshava is like thinking about, machshava means practical thinking, not in the sense of I'm going to go to the moon, but in the sense of misbonin is like theoretical thinking when you're only thinking about it from a purely intellectual perspective. Machshava is when you're thinking about it as an actor, as someone who's can do stuff in the world. So when you think about yourself, these same things, meaning when you're thinking about yourself, I'm a human being who does stuff. So then you have a different reaction. Miyadhu nirta lachorav, you recoil backwards or you cower. Maybe it might be a better translation. You fear and tremble and know that you are a tiny, low, dark creature standing with a puny mind and a frail mind before a being who's perfect in knowledge. Kamosha Amar David, like David says, and I always like to quote the full pasuk here. Ki era shemecha, when I see your heavens, ma'aseh et mosecha, the work of your fingers, yareach v'kochavim asher konanta, the moon and the stars that you have established. Ma enosh kisif karenu, what is man that you should remember him? Uven adam kisif kadenu, and the son of man that you should recall him. Okay, so that's Yiras Hashem. Okay, so now let's go back to the Gemara. How does davening, and this is not contrary to what Isaiah was saying, but sorry, I said davening. This is not contrary to what Isaiah was saying. How does accepting Kabbalas Olma Chushmayim facilitate Yira? And Kabbalas Olma Chushmayim is acknowledging and affirming God's oneness and the fact that he is the independent existence that is the source of all existence and that you're completely dependent on him. So how do we combine all these ideas in one of fearing God at the time when the sun is rising as we and accepting God's oneness at that time? Can we just sharpen it a bit?
Well, it seems to me the Mishnah and the Rambam's halacha of when to say Krias Shema is setting up a framework. I would posit, here's the thing that I'm going to posit. I'm going to posit that the day is the framework of man. That's when man can function. That's when he can do things.
Yeah.
And accepting Omachu Shemayim as a like previous philosophical concept before the beginning of the very moment of that portion of the day when I can move around and engage is submitting myself to the reality that I'm simply like an actor in this state. Whereas normally my natural disposition, and I think like the Seif of the Mishnah highlights this, is that this is the day, I can do whatever I want. This is the true realm of man. And this is saying right before the beginning, when you know it's about to happen, that you're going to get entire control over this earth when the sun is out, except that is itself still a system underneath God. So, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu.
Okay, so cool thing is your explanation fits in very well with what we're saying now. I think it's also going to fit in a different way with what the Meiri is going to say. And I don't know which one's more primary, okay? I'm actually going to just read the Meiri now, just so we can contrast it. I don't know why we don't talk about this more in yeshiva. The Meiri holds that you daven haneitz to counteract avodah zarah, okay? Which I was shocked the first time I saw this Meiri. Okay, so check this out.
Is that when they would do avodah zarah?
Yes. Why would they do avodah zarah then? What would they worship?
To have the sun come out.
The sun. They would worship the sun, right? So here's what the Meiri says: Why would they orient their tefilos at the time of haneitz? So he's saying tefilah, but we could apply it to our idea. Because at that time, the majority of people would err or would stumble after the worship of the sun. Okay, so I'm reading too much here. He's saying that the Israel would establish their tefilah at that time because it contains brachos through which a person recognizes that the sun comes from God. In the same way that they wrote regarding the Tamid Shel Shachar. Okay, so the Tamid Shel Shachar is, you bring two tamidim, one in the morning, that's the Tamid Shel Shachar, and then Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim as the sun is setting or as the sun's going down. So we bring the Tamid Shel Shachar in the west, and we bring the Tamid Shel Ben Arbaim in the east. Why? He says, Tamid Shel Shachar haya nishchad b'keren tzfonis mizrachis, v'shel Ben Arbaim b'keren tzfonis ma'aravis. Oh, sorry. Wait, what? I said the opposite, and I thought I was right. Hold on just 1 second. I just want to make sure that I'm not mistaking this. What did I call it?
Yeah. For like west or east. There they are. Northwest corner.
Northwest corner. Oh yeah. Wait, where?
It's underlined. West corner.
West corner.
Lower down.
Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Thank you. So this is the Torah Tamima on the Sifrei. And he's quoting the Malbim. So he says, the purpose of the Tamid is to counteract sun worship. The idolaters would bow down and worship the sun twice a day upon its rising and its setting. Its morning service would take place facing the east, and its afternoon service would take place facing the west, meaning for the avodah zarah. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us to offer before him 2 daily sacrifices: the slaughtering of the morning Tamid at the northwest corner of the altar. That's what I thought, yeah. And the slaughtering of the afternoon Tamid at the northeast corner in direct opposition to the sun worship. Yeah, and it's I'm just going to read this in case it's relevant. The sages said that if Moshe had entered the land of Israel, he would have nullified the Yetzer Hara for avodah zarah, and the service of the Tamid would have been unnecessary. By the way, this, people always chalk up the idea that korbanos are to counteract avodah zarah. They ascribe that to the Rambam because the Rambam is the one who fully embraces it. But this is Sifrei. Okay, so this is like Chazal saying this. They're not saying it about all korbanos. They're saying it about the Tamid, but still, like they're saying this korban was formulated to counteract avodah zarah. So they say, right. So if Moshe entered the land, the Yetzer Hara for avodah zarah would have been nullified, and the service of the Tamid would have been unnecessary. Since he requested, may Hashem appoint a man over the assembly, and Yeshua was appointed to wage wars, and he lacked the power to nullify these Yetzer Hara for avodah zarah. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructed Moshe to charge his children to not exchange his glory for foreign gods, and to not worship the sun as the Gentile nations did. And it's for this purpose that the section of the Tamid was commanded, namely as a polemic against avodah zarah. So that's the Tamid. So what was the Meiri saying? I thought the Meiri binyan tamichar shachar haya nishchat bekeren tzvonis mizrachis v'sham bein arba'im bekeren tzvonis maravis kmo shedarshu shnayim layom shiyu shneim nishchatim kneged hayom. Yeah.
This is a machlokas, or is this?
I don't know. I feel like it's weird to have a machlokas about how the Talmud is, where the Talmud is shechted. I mean,
it seemed pretty pshat, norm. Like that.
Yeah, right. Unless he's saying, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
No, because I'd hear you saying that if you did it opposite, that would like say they wouldn't be facing the sun, and therefore they whatever. You can have a good explanation of that, but if you're doing it with the sun, that seems much stranger.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay, I don't know what the Meiri is saying, but let's just say this. So let me pull out the idea that I wanted to pull out that I said is Michael was close to here, or was in line with, that it perhaps it's not just a thing. See, when I first read the explanation in the Gemara about haneitz, I was thinking, okay, there's the neutral mode where you're not doing anything at haneitz, but then if you do kabbalas ol malchut shamayim at haneitz, that's a positive. But what I'm wondering here is maybe there's no neutral and positive. Maybe either you are devoting your day to avodas Hashem and recognizing His sovereignty by doing kabbalas ol malchut shamayim at haneitz, or you're catering to some other fantasy, whether it's like Michael was saying of this is my day, I can do whatever I want, or whether it's a primal like avodah zarah thing where you are like, feeling like in that time it was actual avodah zarah where they thought that there was a sun god, where they worshiped the sun as a god. For us, it would be much more like the laws of nature just do their own thing and act independently. And if I allow that process to happen and don't sync it up with my Krias Shema, then I am catering to that emotion, or that fantasy that the universe operates on its own without God, So it's like a critical moment where if, like, so to speak, God is looking at you at haneitz saying, okay, what are you going to do, man? Like, are you aligning yourself with Yiras Hashem and accepting Yichud Hashem and saying that everything is dependent on Him and realizing that you're a frail creature standing before a being who's perfect in knowledge and like devoting your day to Avodas Hashem? Or are you saying, oh, this is my day? Or like, the laws of nature operate independently and like, okay, yeah, God, I'm gonna have my coffee and then I will accept your kingship, like, it's a critical moment. And maybe that's the need for the zehirus by Krias Shema. In other words, this is not just like any other mitzvah where you have a zman to do it. And like, you should do it in the zman and like, there's a best zman and a worse zman. Here, it's like your actual experience of reality is going to be made or broken based on whether you take advantage of this mitzvah of kabbalas ol malchut shamayim at the proper like experiential time. Yeah, Yosef?
Maybe like to add on to Michael's point, maybe it's like you're kind of characterizing your whole day by the idea of kabbalas ol malchut shamayim if you do it by the earliest point.
Right. Yeah.
You're saying like you're kind of like defining your whole experience.
Right. So
of daytime.
Exactly. Yeah. It's your whole experience of day. That's also close to what Isaiah was saying, that ideally this will carry you through your entire day, so it's not even just in terms of this mitzvah, it's how you face the day, and how you frame your day. Yeah. Okay. I think I don't know about you. I talked myself into saying that, like, I think this is a good shot for be careful with the time of Krias Shema.
I would say one other thing, just like in slight opposition to your characterization of ol malchut shamayim, like, yes, it is submission and like you're an insignificant speck on a rock hurling through space, but also read Krias Shema. It's not like terrible. It's like good. You make a whole bunch of promises. Like, it's a nice thing.
No. Right.
Reality.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't mean to downplay the contents of Krias Shema. Yeah. And Krias Shema focuses on Avos Hashem, not on Yiras Hashem, which is an interesting thing in its own right. Okay. We good with this? Okay. Let me show you. Yeah, Joseph?
No, never mind.
Okay. Let me show you another cool idea. Okay. We're probably not going to get to tefilah today. I think we're just going to focus on Krias Shema. So the Abravanel has a really cool idea. Because he's the Abravanel, he has long interpretations here. Okay, but I'm going to read two of them if we have time. So first of all, his Girsa says, be careful with Krias Shema and tefilah. Okay, so he gives an interpretation that involves both of them, but puts the emphasis right in this paragraph on Krias Shema. So listen to this beautiful Abravanel here. Okay, he says like this. Is this really what I wanted? Hold on. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, okay, fine. So it's going to be, okay, again, it's a little wordy, it's the Abravanel. Im hakodem besidur shivchei Hashem yisparach. So first, before you do tefilah, you have to arrange the praises of Hashem. V'im hamisacher b'shlosha satrachim, and then afterwards with 3 needs. Okay, he'll explain what he means. Ki ima adam lo yodea hashakel yisparach nimsa echad v'yachol yodea umashgiach b'bnei adam. If a guy doesn't know that God is existing, is one, is omnipotent, has knowledge, and is mashgiach on people. So if you don't know that, how can you ask for your needs from him? Okay, you know that's the slogan of tefilah. You have to know who you're before in order to be able to ask God for stuff. That's why Chazal say, a person should always praise God and then yispala, which means then he should make his request. I gave a whole shiur on this, I think last year. On the Rashba on this. Okay, so if you're interested in that, let me know. Umi Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom lamanuze. We learned this from Moshe. Shneimar, as it says, Hashem Elokim ata hachilos laharos as avtecha es god lechem es yadacha hachazaka asher mi kel b'shamayim uvaretz asher yasecha mascha chlik b'rosecha. So first he praises God. V'achrei zichron shivchei hamakom shal tzrachav shneimar ebrana ve'areh. Then afterwards he said his bakasha. Okay, fine. So go to that shiur in the Rashba about that. Now here's where he starts to explain stuff. Tiknu chachaminu zikron libracha parshios shema im habrachos shelafaneha ulakra. That's why. So this is answering Oren's question. Okay, Oren's question last week, which I said it's an interesting question, but I didn't know where to look for it. Oren's question was, if tefilah is the big rendezvous with God, why do we say shema? No, this question was a different question. Okay, whatever. This is a different question. Why do we say shema before tefilah? Okay, that's what he's going to answer now. So he says like this. So you begin by acknowledging God's existence and his divinity by saying, you Hashem are the source of blessing, king of the universe. And afterwards, Yagid Yecholto b'maseh Bereshis shiyatzar or uvora choshech. Then you declare God's omnipotence in Maseh Bereshis by saying that he formed light and created darkness. V'yizkor brias hamaoros v'haschalim hanivdalim. And then you mention the creation of the luminaries and the separate intelligences, meaning the angels, v'ofen sherusim, and the way that they serve God. So he's walking you through all these ideas that you're doing in the brachos of Krias Shema. So first, recognizing God's existence and divinity. Then God created the heavenly bodies. Then he created the angels and the etc. And they serve him. Then you say that God is the one to whom it is proper to ascribe praise. You acknowledge that every day God does miracles and wonders. He works mighty acts, and he does new things. And you give him, you ascribe good to him. He gives these good things that he made. He will give these good things that he made to his creations. No, v'yitain, and a person should give al hatovos ha'elu regarding these good things asher asa, which God did im briosav, with his creatures. He should give shevach v'hodah, praise and thanks, v'yachton b'yotzar hamoros, and then conclude with saying God is the one who creates the luminaries. Okay, so that's all the first bracha of Krias Shema. Acknowledge God is the creator and that he does all this good stuff for his creations. Okay, the achrizeh, and afterwards, yitin hoda al ha'ahava asher ahav Hashem lanu. Then you give thanks for the love that God loved us with. That's ahava rabba. V'hatorah shenasan lanu mitoch osa ava, and the Torah that he gave us through this ava. V'chein yomar l'chol ish Yisrael sheyishma v'yavin v'yamin sheyesh Hashem b'chuyav mitzius. And therefore, he will declare that each Jewish man will declare that he understands, he listens, understands, and believes that there exists a God who is a necessary existence, V'shu Elokeinu, and he is our God, Ve'elav Navo, and we serve him, V'shu Echad Mibli Riboy, and he's one without any multiplicity. That's the Shema. L'chein roi la'avo b'chol lev b'chol nefesh. That's ve'ahavta v'yizkor devarav b'mitzvosav, and that's the second paragraph of Shema. Okay, so he's just chugging right along here, right? You're reviewing all these ideas before you actually daven, all right? Because you're making sure you know before whom you're standing. Od Yavar Yediaso v'Hashgachaso b'Parshas Im Shemoah. You also recount God's knowledge and His hashgacha in the parsha of Hayah Im Shemoah. V'zichron Yitzias Mitzrayim v'Osam Nifla Osav, and remembering the Yitzias Mitzrayim and the wondrous miracles there. V'Kula b'Parshas Tzitzis. Uva osam ha'emunos shetichnu bein Krias Shema tefilah, and in all those other beliefs that are between Krias Shema and tefilah. V'zemi ma shiur Krias Shema b'parsha Yosef b'kodem uva misacher him sidur shvachav shel makom bayom. So the Krias Shema, with the stuff that comes before it and the stuff that comes after it, is the arrangement of praises of God by day. Same thing at night. Then after you go through these things, then you daven, okay, as they establish. Because if a person doesn't have ingratitude before God, over the kindnesses that He gave him and he received from him, but instead he gives thanks and blesses him, then he'll be proper to have his request from God. So in other words, again, it's all one idea, but he's just spelling it out in Abravanel fashion. You can't ask God for stuff before you review who you're standing before, and the Krias Shema and its brachos are a very comprehensive review of all that. Okay, now here's where he gets this idea. Okay, this is commentary on Avos. Hine im kain, if so, due to the precedence of Krias Shema before tefilah, as I mentioned, Amar Rabbi Shimon heavy zayir b'Krias Shema tefilah. That's what Rabbi Shimon means when he says, "Be careful in Krias Shema tefilah." Okay, beautiful. Here's the beautiful line. Rotzalomer means to say, "She zahir la'ayin v'laseis libo al hapinos hanichlalos b'parshios Krias Shema uva brachos tefilah she'achareha." That you should be careful to think into and to pay attention to the fundamental principles that are included in the parshios of Krias Shema and in the brachos of tefilah before it, or that are after it. Ki b'zeh yiskarav labora. That's what's going to make you close to God. Okay, so in other words, to put this in kind of exaggerated terms, we are so occupied with looking for how to get kavanah and tefilah, we miss that what sets us up for kavanah and tefilah is paying attention for Krias Shema and its brachos. If you pay attention for Krias Shema and its brachos, and you view that as a curricular review of all the Yesodei Torah, and you think about each one, that's being careful in Krias Shema, and then you link that mentality to tefilah, you will definitely have kavanah and tefilah because you'll know before whom you're standing. You'll have built up this idea in your mind about the being before whom you're standing, and then when you actually are standing and davening and asking for stuff, you'll be addressing that being. But the way we do it is we just kind of mumble through Krias Shema, and then we stand in tefilah, and we're like, why don't I have kavanah in my my bakashos? Because you don't know who you're actually talking to. And if you combine that with Pesukei de Zimra, which gets you ready in an even more broad way, which we didn't really define, but we've kind of been doing Pesukei de Zimra for 3 months. It's an even grander review because you're reviewing God and Maser Breshis and his relationship with Klal Yisrael. Then you're saying Krias Shema and accepting this upon yourself, and then you're going into tefilah. In fact, I think. Hold on. There's a diagram. Where would I put it? Tefilah diagram, Shachri's diagram. Hold on just 1 second here. I don't know who came up with this, but it's printed in a Koren Siddur that we used to have in Shel Hevet. Let me see if I can find it. I don't remember what year I first used it. If I can't find it, then I will have to show it to you some other time. Not there. Check 2 more places. 2017 through 18. Not there. And then the last hope would be if I did it in 2016 and 17. Nope. Okay, I can't find it. Ooh, 15 most common tefilah words. Someone was asking me about Hebrew stuff. This would probably be useful for them. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so that's the Abravanel. Okay, any questions or insights about the Abravanel there? I think it's good shot for being careful. And this is a different kind of being careful, right? Just to contrast them. Rabbeinu Yonah is saying, be careful halachically, because there's so much philosophical importance in whether you take advantage of this like delicate opportunity. Abravanel is saying, be careful to think about the ideas in Krias Shema because it will impact your tefilah. He's not talking about like be careful in terms of the zman.
Why isn't it internally like important? Like that kind of bothers me. Like, why is there any inherent value according to the Abravanel of like, let's say you have a situation where you won't have enough time to say Amida, but you will have enough time to say Krias Shema, right?
Right.
So there's no inherent value of saying.
So I think I do think that he does hold there is inherent value, and he probably would explain that where it talks about probably in his commentary on the Shema. But here his goal is not to explain the value of Shema, it's to explain why Pirkei Avos needs to tell you to be careful in Shema and tefilah. So he's only addressing that question. Like, what's the caution that connects Krias Shema to tefilah? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. In the remaining 2 minutes, I'm just going to share another idea, which I didn't get a chance to develop. This is my own idea. And I got this from the Rabbeinu Yonah about like showing up and saying Shema like on time. I was thinking that, okay, God, there's this like dance that we play in Judaism where on the one hand, we know that God is not physical and doesn't have human qualities. But on the other hand, we have no choice but to relate to him through Lashon B'nai Adam, like in human ways. And we bow to him, we speak to him, Chazal use mashalim of like God is watching you and God's listening to you. So there's like this struggle of like, you want to relate to God as a human, while recognizing that he's not a human and doesn't have qualities. In other words, if you were to say, well, God doesn't care what I do, why should I speak to him? He knows my thoughts. Why should I bow to him like he knows my thoughts? You're going to end up your psyche is going to end up being completely disconnected from your relationship with God. So same thing like with when you do a chet bein adam lamakom, you ask God for forgiveness. You treat him like a human, being. So that's I like a thing fundamental of what it means to relate to God. Is you're essentially reprogramming your emotions to get them in line with your mind, but you want your emotions to relate to God on their own terms. So I was trying to think of an idea that is in line with this. And I was thinking like, if you have a meeting with your boss, okay, and your boss calls it for 1 p.m. sharp, and you show up late, right? So it really reflects a lack of kavod for your boss. If you really respect your boss, you show up on time. And it's not just your boss, it really should be your colleague also. You show up on time. I was saying this earlier that obviously everyone, comes late at certain times, but like there are people who are like chronically late to everything, and like there is a severe lack of respect that they have for other people's time, So I was thinking that aside from all these ideas of dominating exactly at haneitz and all the philosophical implications, Krias Shema happens to be the only thing where there is an exact moment that you have to show up for your avodas Hashem. Everything else in your avodas Hashem, there's ranges of time. So one impact that it has is you show up and you make your whole waking up revolve around showing up to the meeting exactly on time. And again, if you take the way that we relate to that with human beings and you transition that to God, it bolsters respect for God and reinforces like the authority relationship of the fact that he's your melech. And if you don't do that, it weakens that sort of relationship. I don't have more than that, but I was just thinking about it.
I think that's good. I think that, like within all the actions of man, there are the things that we choose to do, and then reality at large, the things that like we have no control over.
Right.
And we know that we have to wake up. We have to wake up
Right.
at some moment. And it's simply saying, habituate your animal body to be in accord with a reality time to wake
Right.
up. Not because if it's any time other than that, that's something you chose, and then that's pure
Exactly.
agency.
It's in the realm of your agency, correct? Yeah.
Right.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, and I think that idea is not contrary to the other ideas we said. I think that they all layer nicely. So just to summarize, we have just in reverse order, we have show up on time because you're responding to God's call, not to your own like agency, your own preferences. Okay. Abravanel's idea of review the ideas, use Shema as a means of reviewing all the ideas to prepare you to be dal lifnei miyat ha'omed in tefilah, and you have better kavanah in tefilah. And then you have the idea of Rabbeinu Yonah of be careful about the timing, because based on Rashi and the Meiri and Isaiah and Michael and Yosef, all these ideas here, that like how you relate to God when you accept the Kabbalah's Omach Shemaim on yourself. If you sync that up with the beginning of your day, it's going to have tremendously beneficial philosophical ramifications about going into the day as a servant of God and with the Yiras Hashem mentality. And if you don't, then you're catering either to the sense of personal agency or to avodah zarah, or to like I have my own day, and or the laws of nature operate independently. So that's why you should be careful in saying Shema on time, or saying Shema in tefilah. Okay, good. So we didn't get to tefilah, but that was a good thing for Shema, I think. And we got to some tefilah at least. Okay. I will put out feelers to see. I think unless people end up getting sick, we should have our normal crowd or our normal regulars on Thursday night, or at least some of our normal regulars. So assume that there is shiur on Thursday night, and we can continue this. Oh, no, sorry. What am I saying? I'm doing a special shiur on Thursday night. Yeah, I'm doing the shiur on, what was it? I don't think I'm going to do a double shiur, but I want to do the shiur on hamakom, and on. So the shiur is going to be on hamakom. I'm going to stop the recording now.